So it's going to take us 14 years to make that complete transition. But wait a minute, 16%, what about the other 84? What are we going to do about that? We need to step up and think about a broad-based, comprehensive, mandatory tradable permits program that applies across the board. And it's going to impact all of us. But don't just look at mobile sources. Look at stationary structures as well, whether it pertains to coal or oil or natural gas. And if we all get involved in making improvements in the environment, we can get there. But we can't label just one industry with the responsibility for fixing it. So I would personally have thanked every one of our Michigan Democrats in the Congress of the United States who have been there, working with us, helping us, making arrangements for us to go to Washington and testify, because this is such an important industry. And you know, the auto industry is the single greatest engine of economic growth in our country. There is no doubting that. We employ in the auto industry about 8 out of 10 auto workers. And that's the big three. And that's really, if you compare that to the foreign nameplates that are here, the numbers have changed now, for the media anyway, because we've had some buyouts in that. But it was about 377,000 last year compared to 95,000 of the foreign nameplate operations. The job impact of the big three, they reach out and touch about 7 million jobs in this country. They purchase over 80% of the parts, and the domestic content of these vehicles averages around 76%. So we continue to value this industry and everything that we've tried to do to help the industry, but we cannot win when our government, at the last minute before fast track expires, negotiates the KORES free trade agreement, or Korean-U.S. free trade agreement. Just keep this in mind, and this shows you about our trade agreements and our open market. South Korea exported from their country into the United States 700,000 vehicles last year, plus. Every manufacturer in the United States, including the foreign nameplates, sent around 6,500 vehicles over there. 700,000, 6,500. So why would our government even sit down and negotiate that kind of an agreement? What they're doing is they're stealing our jobs. Our government is taking our jobs away from us. So we're going to do something about it. And you know, I want to talk about the UAW for just a minute, because I believe, contrary to what sometimes we read, that we are a very responsible union. And we do everything in our power to resolve our agreements, and in fact, over 98% of our contracts are resolved with the employers without conflict. And that's what our job is. Our job is to negotiate agreements and to come in and work out difficult and challenging situations. If you go back to the 03 negotiations, we gave Delphi and Visteon 2-tier wages. Something we did not want to do, but something we recognized we needed to do. And if you look at the Delphi agreement today, now that they're out of bankruptcy, and go back and look at the agreement that we negotiated with them then, you will find very little difference. In 05, mid-contract, our concern was for our retirees. And we got many of our Livingston County area retiree chapter members here tonight. And we were very concerned about our retirees. So we took on a small VEBA, Voluntary Employee Beneficiary Association, to help Ford and General Motors, and we did not do it for Chrysler, because we didn't believe Chrysler needed it at the time, based on what they were telling us, and as it turns out, they weren't exactly being honest with us, and they ended up hurting them a bit. But we did that. We did that mid-contract because we knew that with the laws that exist today and what Steve Miller proved at Delphi, you can go bankrupt in this country. You can operate around the world. You don't have to take into consideration any of your U.S. operations, and you can literally destroy families, you can destroy communities, and you can walk out with a fat paycheck at the end of the day. You can do that. Now, if anybody else can do it, and thank God for our union, we had benefit guarantees at Delphi that protected our people, but any company can do that today. Any union official in this room can tell you they probably had to experience it somewhere during their career.
Corporate welfare.
That's right. And that's what we did, though. We stood up and we took a responsible approach. We came into 07 negotiations and we let the company make the VIVA their demand. Actually, we had offered it to them in 05. So we backed away from it and let them make it their demand so we could get something for it. And they did. And we were glad to accept it. And I want to say to the retirees that are here tonight, you do not have to worry about your health care. We've got it in that beneficiary association. We've already appointed the 6 independent trustees. There will be health care for every retiree that's on retired today and into the future for the next 80 years. We took on that risk. Because let me tell you, at the end of a contract, there's always a fight. The company says, you know, we've got a right to change benefits. We say you don't. Then we always go through that. Then there's always the threat that a company could go bankrupt. Sure, we're willing to accept the risk. I believe that our trustees will be able to manage this VIVA in such a way that we'll come out in the long run better. And we'll do that. And speaking of health care, because we got the VIVA, that didn't mean we walked away from health care. We got a institute, a health care reform institute, and we asked the companies to put a little money in it. So we got them to put in $30 million, and we're going to be studying health care and how we can make changes for everybody, because that's what needs to be. But that goes back to being a responsible union. And as I indicated to you, in the 07 negotiations, we made major changes to help these companies, to help them. And I can tell you that we did everything in our power. And it wasn't easy. I can tell you without fear of contradiction, in 05, the most difficult decision that I've ever made, and I'm working on 44 years of being in this union, was to make the decision to pass off some health care costs to our retirees based on where they fell in the scale. But we did that, and that was tough. We moved forward, and we did other things in 07, including we did not take a pay increase in any of the big 3 contracts throughout a 4-year agreement. So that seems to me like the responsible thing to do. And we worked through those agreements, and they were tough, and they were challenging. Backing up to American Axle. We worked with American Axle on closing one of their facilities, and that was in Buffalo, New York. We worked with them on a special attrition program. We put in a 2-tier wage, and that was done through the 04 agreement there. We made tough choices to preserve our jobs. Now, American Axle was formed in 1994. 5 UAW facilities. Today there's 4. I see Rich Atwood, who's Vice President Jimmy Settle's top administrative assistant, in the back of the room, and I know they got 29 operations around the world. They got 4 that are UAW represented here under the master agreement, and I believe 2 that are not. So they got 23 operations around the world. Now, where did they come from? That come from a productive, quality conscious workforce that